Hello, welcome to Doors to Hope and Healing, an inside look at foster care and adoption needs in Connecticut. My name is Jacqueline Ford, and I am humbled and honored to have worked for the Department of Children and Families for almost 30 years. And although I may be familiar with many of the topics I bring to you, I am inviting experts in those fields to share their knowledge. Joining us in the studio today is Vanessa Watkins and Christy George from the Institute of Professional Practice. They will speak to us about the services offered, events they're hosting, and about therapeutic foster care programming. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining me today. What we hope to do is to have the viewers get to know the two of you and the selfless work that you're doing on behalf of children and families in Connecticut through IPPI where you're working. So let's start with you, Christy. Can you talk about your role at IPPI and what you do there?
Sure. So I just recently celebrated 20 years with the Institute of Professional Practice. Prior to coming to IPPI is sort of the easy way of saying it. I was working at a shelter for children down in Greenwich and did that work for about 3 or 4 years. It was primarily a short-term placement for children of all ages prior to either going back to their birth families or moving on to a foster placement.
Was that Kids in Crisis?
It sure
yes,
was.
I think that's when I first met you, back then.
Probably.
Yes, yes.
So that work sort of led me into the foster care field. When I arrived at IPP, I was a case manager, so I was supporting kids and families throughout Connecticut, primarily in the Waterbury, New Haven areas. I think I remember us working together in Waterbury with some families and some youth.
Yes.
Did that for a couple of years before moving into the recruitment and training department, which has been primarily the department that I've supported through my time at IPP. So I'm the Youth and Family Resource Manager. I support the licensing process. So if there are individuals who want to be foster families, I sort of help to support that process of them coming through the application, the training. I do co-facilitate the training with Martha and some of our foster parents. And Vanessa will soon be doing the foster parent training with us as well. And then I help to support the sort of, bringing in of children to the program. So I support the matching process between children and the foster families and really helping to create a transition plan that is, setting kids and families up for success. The Institute of Professional Practice has been around for over 30 years. We span 5 different states, including Connecticut. Here in Connecticut, we have a wide variety of programming for both children and adults. We've got an outpatient clinic now out of our Meriden office that provides counseling services and psychiatric services to both the youth and families in our program, but also in the community of Meriden. We have a school program. We have 2 accredited schools, one in Stratford and one in Naugatuck, that support children on the autism spectrum. And those are accredited schools as well. We have an adult services division that has group homes and community companion homes to support individuals with disabilities, again, throughout the state of Connecticut. And then we have our children's program, which is called Permanency Services. It's kind of like the umbrella term. And within that is our therapeutic foster care programs. We run 2, actually. One out of our Meriden office and one out of our Hamden office.
So if one of the viewers was watching, so we're in, I think, season 5 of our show, and we've been talking a lot about all the facets of DCF and all the services that we offer and about foster care and adoption. So if somebody's watching the show and they want to know what the difference between a traditional core foster home that's licensed through the Department of Children and Families as opposed to a therapeutic level of foster care, can you differentiate the 2 models for our viewers?
Yeah, absolutely, and I can do that by talking a little bit about sort of the services and supports and then the youth. So we work in partnership with DCF. So all of the children that come to our program come through DCF, and so we work in partnership with DCF to really identify what the individual needs are of the youth, and then we identify support services to support that youth and the family. Children who are referred to therapeutic level foster care typically have a little bit of a higher need in terms of the need for supports and services. So we as a private agency obviously work in partnership with DCF, but we provide more intensive sort of support. And an example of that would be, our staff go into the homes on a weekly basis. And I think in core homes, it's not as frequent. We would connect the youth to recreational activities, outpatient therapy, mentors, whatever kind of services we feel kind of in, the conversation with the DCF team are really necessary to sort of support the kids towards their growth and their development and their success. So the level of need is a little higher in therapeutic foster care, and then the support services are a little more intensive as compared to, say, a DCF, core foster home. I think the other difference, too, is that we see and we support children who are a little bit older. So we really need foster families who are open and willing to support our teenage kids that are in the DCF foster care system, really help bridge them from foster care to independent living. We don't get a ton of really little kids, and I think that's a little probably more common at the DCF level. But those, I think, would be kind of, some differences.
Yeah, and I think that explains it pretty well. Yeah, because we walk this walk all the time, and we know the differences. But when you're in the community and you're recruiting foster families, and a therapeutic level foster care agency may have a table, and DCF may have a table, and people sometimes leave confused, saying, "Where do I best fit?" Yeah, why are you both there, and where do I best fit? Because the presentation at a table and the interaction with either DCF or a therapeutic could be much different than the other, and it's not based on who's recruiting, it's really where that family is best served for a child. So I think that was a great explanation of the differences. So Vanessa, so you're charged with the mission of creating a regional level of awareness and need for foster parents and adoptive parents. Can you talk to us about your role with IPP?
Well, I like, at first when I took the role, I realized I was a recruiter. And so when I would speak about it, I would say, I'm here and I'm recruiting foster parents, but more it is increasing resources to our youth and families. And when you say the word resources, it really explains in terms of, one, yes, I am recruiting foster parents as well, but also I'm looking at the needs for our foster parents that we currently have and how do we retain them. And what are some of the needs of the youth that we have, and how do we increase that, and how do we meet that need? And so when I'm out and about in the community and looking at, if I'm out there and discussing, what are some of the challenges that make parents not want to come in and foster, when I'm addressing those, I'm also learning about the people out there, the agencies that exist, the organizations, and saying, wow, well, what are the services you have? How do we form relationship? Are those services something that our youth can benefit from? And how do we come into a relationship together? So, and by doing that, I've been increasing the resources. Just at our recent Family Caregiver Appreciation Brunch, we were able to introduce our passport booklet that looks very much like a passport. But in there, we were able to include some of the community partners and the relationships that we're building. And in those relationships, those services, they were offering discounts to some of the things that the youth and families want to participate in. For instance, Hamden Barbershop, he offered 50% discounts off of haircuts if you came on a particular day. And so our youth have come out there. They've had an awesome experience. So things like that. And so we are really showcasing his business as well. But the youth is meeting and, getting a need met.
Sure. So you're not working in silos. You're really partnering with who's out there, whether it's a business or somebody who's involved with foster care and adoption, and maybe not. Maybe it's someone who just a business or a community provider that has a passion for helping that vulnerable population of kids.
Exactly. And what I found too is, when we talk about relationship, is what is that business's goal? Who are they? How did they come into the community? How did they come to be that owner? And what was their vision? What was their purpose, mission? And is that something we share? Are we meeting the same need in the community? Okay, well then how can we work together to do that?
Because you don't want to duplicate services.
Exactly.
And we find that. So how are you finding these community partners and these businesses?
Well, That's interesting. So in the beginning of the year, we started big. We went out and I literally was knocking on doors. I hit like over 60 businesses face to face saying hi, introducing myself and telling them what it is we're doing. But over time and, you know, getting a little better at it, getting a little more focused at what is it that we're really trying to do, looking at our own mission, you know, that we empower individuals or we build strong communities by empowering the individuals. I started seeing, like, when I would walk in this, let's say any store or agency or organization, they shared the same mission that we had. And so I was like, well, how do you do that? Well, how did you come to that? And really hearing their story. And so it started helping me narrow down, well, what am I really trying to get? What type of services do our youth and families need? And for retention of our family caregivers, well, what is it that they can really benefit from? How do we really woo them? What would really satisfy them and show them that we really appreciate what they do? And so it began to focus more, like, okay, so I'm gonna target this type of business, this type of owner. And
what I would add, though, is what was really incredible was that it just naturally and sort of organically developed itself. So we kind of started out really big, and as Vanessa said, she was knocking on doors. But then as we sort of narrowed it down and as she started to talk to people about sort of not only their business but how they got there, we were finding that some of the community partners really shared the same or very similar mission and vision that our agency has.
extremely so.
So she said before, we build strong communities by empowering individuals. And so what we found was that naturally she was kind of finding the right people to not only offer supports and services, but to also help us get the word about the need for foster homes. So she talked about the Hamden Barber. He has a display of our marketing materials right when you walk into his shop.
It feels like coming home, you know, almost to the point that I felt like, gosh, could we get it to where I can say, hey, you know, if someone called me and I'm in the Meriden office and they're down in New Haven, if I could say, hey, you know what, why don't you stop in the barbershop? There's some materials there that you can get right away. And let's make some time to meet. I can meet you there, or and even thinking about, like, could I leave an application there? Could that, you know, but it's nice to have that hub. And
Sure, and you can have many different hubs. I know we're going to talk about the barbershops and an event that you have coming up. What other businesses have you collaborated with in that sense of having a hub or having them find an interest in supporting our mission that may be similar to their mission but may not have anything necessarily to do with children and families?
that may not have
Yeah,
anything to do with children and families. Most of the businesses that I've come in contact with do have something to do with children and families, but here's another one. Amy Lisi on Whitney Avenue. Now, she is the Artist Collective, and I like that because normally if you would walk into the building, it looks like just a hairstylist, a hair salon. But because of her vision about how she wants to allow for her partners to express themselves and sort of not just be that owner and say, here, you know, I'm going to have you sign this. She wants their freedom, right? And so you build strong community by empowering individuals. And so I saw that she was doing that in her workplace. And we had a really long discussion about, so that's your vision for this, for your shop, for the salon. And talking to her greater, her passion was like, can we shut this down and talk about how do we build strong identities in women? And so from the onset, you would look and see, here she's this hair salon. And if I didn't walk in and have that conversation with her, I would have thought,
known.
Exactly, exactly.
And you're also helping her business become more established just by awareness of her business while she's working hand in hand with us. Have you found that the businesses that you're collaborating with will let you have an open house right at their business facility?
Most of them are very open to it. We do try to take into consideration, like, you know, what type of business it is. You know, like the barbershop is a very busy business. So is the hair salon. So those benefit more after hours or on the weekend. However, Three Brothers Diner. They have absolutely nothing to do directly, right, with youth and families,
Yes.
but all youth and families
But they go
eat.
there, right? Yes, they eat there. So,
And Ahmet Kangal is his name. He has such an amazing heart for the community. And so you keep seeing the theme, right? I know my girlfriends and I go there and have been going there as long as I can remember for a cup of tea that we milk the table for 5 hours. And he's allowed us to have several open houses there at
that's
no
great to
cost
know.
to us. And so, yes, these
it's
are
a great
amazing.
diner. Yeah, it is. I've been there myself. But those are great partnerships that you're establishing.
Yes.
So can you talk to us a little bit about this event that you have coming up in August, right?
Yes, I'm
us
excited
all
about
about
this
it.
event. So it is sponsored by the nonprofit organization called Fishers, which stands for Faith Inspired Servants, Helping Others Reach Services. And it is presented by D-Perv's Top Barbecue and Hamden Barbershop. So let me just tell you, just back up a little bit about who D-Perv is. And his name is Daryl Purvis. He was a former foster child. And he has had an incredible passion for community and giving back. We have an appointment to get his interview and his story in detail. But just from what I know of him personally, he began by being my barber. So he was the owner originally of Hamden Barbershop. And I just absolutely just loved that place. It was the first barber that I went to that I felt like as a woman I could go to and feel comfortable. He's very spiritually oriented, so I felt like, wow, I got my hair cut and I got a little inspiration for the day. And then he transitioned out. So at the same time that I took my position as the home finding specialist for IPPI, he transitioned to take on ownership of D-Perv's Top Barbecue. He opened the doors for that. And he's also a foster parent. But originally this is the third year that he is sponsoring this community day. And it's just to give back. It was to provide information to the community under mental health, under physical health, under education, anything that the family needs to just bring it to the heart of the community. And he was shoveling this out of pocket himself with his own money and cooking these meals, catering, and just providing the food for free in the community.
Wow.
In front of his barbershop.
So does he still own the barbershop as well?
He still owns the barbershop. Well, in partnership, I think. I'm not sure of the details. But he still cuts here or there when he can, when he's free. And he also, like I said, he also fosters. And so then it got so big, the community day, that's how it got to Peter Villano Park. And so now it's so big that he's like, hey, I need some partners. And that's how Hamden Barbershop came into play.
Okay.
And we were planning the community day that Daryl had set up already every year at the barbershop. And so they finally said, hey, let's do this as a partnership. And because Ali Glass is the owner now of Hamden Barbershop, and because he is one of our partners, we are very involved, but we are going to be a vendor there. And Ali Glass is also a former foster child.
Wow.
So here are these two former foster children.
And are they adults? How
Adults.
old? They're in their.
They are adults. They own the
families?
business.
Yes.
They have
And they
their
were
own
foster kids.
families, and they were
Wow.
foster kids. One is fostering kids now, and that's how they're giving back to the community, and at no cost to the community. They give away book bags and the supplies, and the food is free. And so we really want other vendors to come out, nonprofit organizations that want to get that information out to the community, and so that they can help with the cost of that, so that the food remains free to the community. And the vendors also eat. It's a top barbecue place. I've been there. The food is great.
And when is this event?
And this is August 18th. It's on a Sunday from 2 to 7.
And the location again? for
And
our
it's
viewers?
at Peter Villano Park. It's 260 Mill Rock Road in Hamden. So, yeah.
And if someone watching wants to be a vendor or they'd like to know more information about it, is there a number that they can call?
Yes, the number is 203-589-7701. And they can also email dpervscomday dpervscomday@gmail.com.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there's still space for vendors to participate.
Yes, and it's also listed on eventbrite.com. They can go look it up.
And you'll be there
We will
recruiting
be there.
foster and adoptive
we will
families?
Be there. Yes,
That's
yes,
great.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else? We're at the end of our show. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about? Or, if someone watching is interested in being a therapeutic foster parent and they think, I really have that desire to help a child who may need a greater level of care. Maybe they're a professional or they have that true understanding of a child that can't be maintained in that traditional core foster home of DCF and are looking for therapeutic care information. Who can they call?
Vanessa.
Yes, they can call me at 203-317-2700 at extension 168.
So say that one more time.
203-317-2700 at extension 168.
Okay.
I'd be
that's great.
happy to help.
And then would you meet them in the community to talk to them about the program? Or?
Yes, we try to meet them where they are. Sometimes we address it over the phone as a preliminary, and then we set up an office interview, and we can meet them in our Meriden office or our Hamden office. But I just want to say one thing in regards to this. Daryl and Ali are going to share their story that day, and I want foster parents or people considering being a foster parent out there just to come out and hear them and see how these gentlemen turned out and know that they can make a difference like that in a child's life.
They're an
be them.
inspiration to
Yes, absolutely.
to the resilience that our kids,
Absolutely.
face such adversity and so many barriers in the work that we do. So when you see two grown men and one fostering now, are just beautiful examples of what a child can become if they're loved and nurtured.
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you both for being here. It was a pleasure to have you on. We'll have you on again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this segment of Doors to Hope and Healing. A special thank you to Vanessa Watkins and Christy George for joining us in the studio. It takes a village to find homes for children in need. On behalf of DCF, we are thankful for their partnership. Next, I'd like to introduce you to David, a wonderful child who is looking for his forever home. Thank you.
David is a very happy teenage boy. The first thing that really struck me when I met David was his ability to smile and make the room light up. He is currently placed in a group home for children with special needs. David is often laughing, he's often smiling. He likes to go to the zoo, he likes to go bowling, he likes walking on the beach. He's currently participating in aquatherapy, and he also loves his music therapy. He can sing some nursery rhymes. You kind of hear tidbits of some Old MacDonald, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. So his face kind of lights up when he hears music. So that's really nice to see. David does need consistent supervision and monitoring based on his medical needs. His vision is low, so he does have trouble at times seeing things and responding to things. He's made a lot of successes with his ability to almost eat independently. He will need assistance walking, but he is mobile. Once David knows his space and his environment, he's able to move around fairly independently. He does have ongoing contact with his maternal grandmother. He lights up, and he really looks forward to her visits. Even when she can't get here to visit all the time, she sends cards, she sends letters, so maintaining that bond is really important. David would be best matched in a family that has either two adult caregivers or a single adult caregiver that has some family support, some friend support. The Department of Children and Families is here to help whatever family David is matched to continue his needs both in home and out of home, and has a variety of resources available to continue that. David will never live on his own, but with the right support, the right love, the right guidance, he will certainly be able to thrive in a family. My hope is that David's family will continue to keep that smile on his face, continue to take him places that make him happy. My hope for David is happiness.